No.
You want to hear it?
Okay.
I've heard it a few times now. It's still a great story. I'll listen again.
Well, I was in Europe because I grew up in musical theater, and that's all I wanted to do. I was lucky enough to come through California and decided I was going to live in Los Angeles, and that's where Hollywood is, and they make pictures, you know. So when I stopped traveling and working in theater, to settle in Los Angeles and bring my son and his parents there and family there, I got an agent and I began to work in television and a couple of pictures, but little parts here and there. You didn't see parts like you see today, and but they were interesting. And then something remarkable happened. Somebody named Gene Roddenberry, who had a series called The Lieutenant, had the audacity to write a script that had two of the three leading characters. Two were a black couple. I think you may know Don Marshall, who went on to the Land of the Giants, and Nichelle Nichols, who went on to Star Trek. This was 3 years before Star Trek. And Josie Augusta, who worked for Gene Roddenberry, was interested in acting, and he used to come and audit the class that I was workshop that I was in, and I was doing a scene View from the Bridge with Don Marshall, and he got so excited because it was really a good scene. And he got so excited he went back and told Gene, "I got your couple. You have to see them because they are." Anyway, Gene, our agents got called and said they wanted, and he came back and told us that's what he had done. And we got nervous and wonderful, and then we went out there and did our scene. But Gene Roddenberry wasn't there. It was 5 guys. Now keep that in mind, 5 other guys. And we did the scene for them. Before I got home, I found out we got the job. Wow. I don't know if you remember The Lieutenant with Gary Lockwood, but it was the biggest thing on TV. And that was Gene Roddenberry's show. 3 years later, now I'm getting what you wanted me to talk about. 3 years, and we got great reviews. 3 years later, I'm in Europe, and back to my old thing, doing theater, doing wonderfully, and have no intentions of coming home. And I get a call from my agent, and it seems that Gene Roddenberry called my agent and said, "Where is Nichelle Nichols?" And he says, "Well, she's in England, in London, and she should be through. What's going on?" He says, "Get her here. I'm changing one of the characters on the new Star Trek thing that hadn't started yet, but they had done 2 pilots before it sold. And now it's sold, and it's going to go on the air in 2 or 3 weeks." He said, "Get her back here. One of the characters is leaving. I want her to come on in one of the leads." So my agent got so excited, and he's calling me, and I'm not in London. I'm in Paris. He tracked me down in my Parisian suite, where everybody is bully-booing me and and I'm going to learn French, and I'm never coming home. My agent says, "Come home. They're doing Star Trek," and I didn't know what a Star Trek was. I said, "I'm not coming home. I've just met the elite who are taking me to Kitzbühel to teach me to ski. Thank you very much. I am with the the elite of the elite of the tra-la, and he said, he just listened to me. He said, I'm going to make a deal with you. I said, okay, but I'm not coming home. He says, there's going to be a first-class ticket. I think it was Air France. Round-trip ticket. You have your little brown butt on it. You come here and go in for that role. If you don't get that role, you can be back in Europe in a week. Is that an offer you can refuse?
I don't think so. I do that.
I didn't. I said, I'll be on it. So I immediately called my mother and then packed my son's things because I'm taking him back to Europe with me. I get there. I go in. Now, in the meantime, I had become very fashionably European.
European.
Very French. I walk in, and black women had just begun to wear their hair in its natural state. Are there any black women in the audience? Well, you know what I'm talking about. You do not show your hair in natural state for years and years and years. And suddenly we're going natural. Well, only a couple of women have even dared to do this, and they were wearing it very, very short. The craze had touched France, Paris, which is different from France.
Yep.
And I had long hair, and they cut it for me because I was going to wear my afro, my hair natural. Oh, boom, boom, boom. And so I go in, and they cut the back of my hair, left the top big, put some bangs on me and straightened those that came to a point, and pulled down the side and pulled on my sideburns and straightened those. So I had this magnificent afro with this. Does this sound familiar to them? Yes. That's how I walked in for my interview. I also had on high-heeled alligator shoes and a matching bag, and a Dior suit. Oh. Tight skirt. I had forgotten Hollywood. You don't go to an interview looking like you really want it. You go casually, so that you know that I'm always doing this. Well, there were 5 or 6 women, young women, and several of them that I knew, who were there for the audition. I walked in, and they're sitting there like this, and I walked in. I said I came to see Mr. Roddenberry for a reading. She said, "Oh yes, there'll be in a moment, Miss Nichols. Thank you for coming and just the thing." And all the girls looked up, and reading the script pages, and they looked up and they went. Then they looked at each other. And I said, I forgot I'm back in America. Oh well, I've got a round-trip ticket. Penny, the secretary, said, Miss Nichols, they're ready to see you. I said, they're looking up. Where did she come from? And she's walking in there, and I was not. So I go in, and there are 5 men sitting over there. Again, remember I said 5 men? Gene Roddenberry. He had his team over there. And they were the producers, the line producer, the director, the assistant, the boss, the AD. And the person that's going to read with you, they handed me 3 pages. Wonderful scene with 3 people. somebody named Kirk, somebody named Bone, and somebody named Spock. And they said, Miss Nichols, would you read the role of Spock? I looked at it and I was reading and I said, good. I said, yes, of course. And they said, this person will read the other two characters and you'll read Spock. Thank you. Tell me something about this character, this Spock character. They said, yes, yes. And I said, what is she like? And they said, where have you been for 2 years? And they thought everybody in the world knew because Star Trek did 2 pilots before it sold. And here they're about to start shooting in 2-3 weeks. So it's being recast, the whole thing. Everybody's being up for it in one way or another. And so why would I not know? And so I said, well, I don't know. I've been in Europe for months. And they said, oh. They said, well, you know, he's very calm, cool, collected. He waits to see. He's very logical and brilliant. And I'm, yeah. And there's no one like this person, quite like this person. And I said, fine. So I thought about it and I took it in consideration and I said, oh, and I see it's on a starship. When does this take place? Oh, not for 300 years. Oh, good. So I considered what I was being given to read, and I did the part. And I said, oh, before I read, I said, so this person, Spock, is a male. They said, yes. I said, could it be a female? And they said, yes, but Leonard Nimoy wouldn't like it. First time I heard that name, I tucked it away, And so I began to read for the role as though I was going after this role as a human being that had these qualities. They had me read the first page, scene, the second page, and I kept waiting them to stop me and say, that's fine. And I went to the third page through the whole thing. So I stopped. And 5 pairs of eyes are just looking at me. Finally, Bob Justman said, call down the personnel. Have Kenny call down the personnel and see if Leonard Nimoy has signed his contract. To wait. Now, I forgot to tell you, when I cross the waters, I always carry a big book to read. Because you can get very bored, you know, having champagne and being able to. But I do. And I happen to have this wonderful big book, which was one of the most wonderful treaties on the continent of Africa that I had ever imagined would be written. And it was called, the title of it was in Swahili. The Swahili word uhuru meant freedom. And so they asked me about this and they were talking about it and so forth. And so that's just to toss that in for you for future information. So they asked me to wait, and I went on Penny. I told Penny, they said for me to wait, and she says, I know. Would you come here in this little anteroom and sit down and just relax? And when they see the other ladies, they want to talk with you. And I said, okay, thank you. So I knew that if they asked you to wait, that's a really good sign, but usually you're waiting with 2 or 3 others of the people who've been asked to wait. Nobody showed up. Until about an hour, or at least 45 minutes later, the director at that time peeked into the room and said, "What are you doing still sitting here?" I said, "You told me to wait." And all I could think of, thank God I've got a round-trip ticket. And he said, "Nobody told you?" And I said, "No, but that's okay." He says, "Oh, come on, you had the part when you walked out of the room." When you walked in the room, actually. and so that was my first inkling. Then they're signing contracts, and now you have to do the fitting. And I came in about 3 days later for my final fitting. And the designer had gotten a call from Gene Roddenberry, just hanging it up. He says, "Gene Roddenberry wants you to stop by the office. He wants to talk, when you finish this, he wants to talk to you about your role." I said, "Oh, fine." So I go to his big office, first time I'm in the office and everything, and they said, "You want to?" He said, "Yes, let's go to lunch. I want to talk to you about the role that you're playing." And I said, "Because I still had nothing to do in there. I didn't know who I was. I'm the communications officer. Turns out I'm the chief communications officer, 4th in command. Thank you very much." Gene explained this to me over a champagne cocktail, and he's explaining to me the problem that he has, and he loves this book, this wonderful book by Roar that's a bestseller, and he got to read some of it, but he was most fascinated with this name, Uhuru. And he said, "You know it means," I said, "Yes, freedom." And he says, "I love it because it's like Freeman. But I don't want to name you Freeman. I want to use that title. But it's a little harsh, Uhuru." And I said, "Oh, then why don't you do an alliteration off of it and soften the M with an A and make it Uhura?" He said, "Great, that's it. You just named yourself. That's your role. That's who you are. And it belongs to you. Now go create your family background and be ready."